Disney, the kingdom of magic, is crumbling. And it's not a slow fade, it's exploding right now, right before our eyes. The fairy tale facade is cracking, revealing a chaotic mess underneath, and at the center of it all, the disastrous fallout from the Snow White remake. Bob Iger, the man who was supposed to be Disney's savior, seriously dropped the ball on this one. He had years, literally years, to step in, to course correct, to maybe even just whisper a word of caution. But he didn't. And now, this whole Snow White fiasco has detonated right in Disney's face. The box office flop? Totally avoidable. And the real kicker? It's ignited a firestorm of tension between Iger and some heavy hitters on the Disney board. Guess what? They are turning on him. The pressure is mounting at lightning speed. This drama, it's spiraling out of control, both behind the scenes in those hushed boardrooms and out in the open for the whole world to see. And if you think the Snow White story is just a box office bomb, you're missing the real shocker. Out of absolutely nowhere, a Minecraft movie? Yes, Minecraft just steamrolled Snow White at the box office. Nobody saw it coming. Expectations? Low to non-existent. But bam! Over $300 million worldwide in its opening weekend. Meanwhile, Snow White barely limped to around $160 million globally. That's not just bad, that's flat out embarrassing for a Disney project. It's a flashing red alarm, screaming that something went terribly wrong behind the curtain. But trust me, it gets messier. We're talking about the RachelZegler controversy, the alleged backstage friction with Gal Gadot, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But this isn't just about a bad movie. It's a sign of something rotten at the core of Disney. What exactly went wrong? And is Bob Iger about to pay the ultimate price? All right, buckle up, because things are about to get messy behind the scenes of that Snow White movie. It wasn't just the box office numbers that were tanking. A full-blown PR nightmare was brewing, and it started way before anyone even bought a ticket. We're talking about the RachelZegler controversy, whispers of tension with Gal Gadot, and a whole lot of drama that painted a picture of chaos. But get this, it wasn't just backstage bickering. This movie went through not one, not two, but 3 separate rounds of reshoots. Imagine the money pit. We're talking tens of millions of dollars thrown down the drain just trying to salvage this thing. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and everyone knew it was going off the rails. And the fallout? Well, it seems like Bob Iger is feeling the heat directly. Word is, all this mess has forced him to step back, that he was even pressured into resigning after the sheer scale of the backlash and that embarrassing box office crash. This isn't just about a movie flopping. It's a full-blown PR disaster shaking Disney to its core. And to twist the knife even further, out of nowhere, a Minecraft movie comes along and completely crushes Snow White's numbers. Seriously, Minecraft? It was the ultimate humiliation, lighting a firestorm inside Disney HQ. But the real drama, the stuff that's about to blow this whole situation wide open, it all went down behind closed doors in a high-stakes emergency call between the top brass that changed absolutely everything. But the real drama unfolded behind closed doors, in a high-stakes emergency call that changed everything. Okay, so picture this. The emergency call is happening, tensions are sky high, and Bob Iger, feeling the walls closing in, decides to pull out a move so unexpected, so audacious, it actually makes things even worse. Right in the middle of this Snow White meltdown, when you'd think he'd be laying low, trying to calm the waters, Iger shocks the entire board with a proposal they absolutely did not see coming. What was it? He suggests putting the brakes on the live-action Tangled remake. Tangled? But that's not even the jaw-dropper. He then floats the idea of extending his reign as Disney CEO all the way to 2028. That's 2 extra years beyond his already planned 2026 exit. Talk about trying to cling to power. Insiders are saying Iger sounded desperate, like he was grasping at straws. He even went as far as suggesting they remake Snow White again, from scratch. Can you believe it? Wiping out anything that even smelled like an agenda, ditching the usual Disney messaging, basically throwing everything about the current movie under the bus. He was even name-dropping big investment firms, trying to shift blame. But the board? They weren't buying it. Apparently, they had reached their limit. This time, the board was pushing back, hard. They were now actively making moves to force him out, with plans for his resignation either by the end of this year or early 2026. Way sooner than Iger ever anticipated or wanted. But Iger? He's not one to back down easily. He's gearing up for a fight, scrambling to find any leverage he can to lock in that 2028 timeline, all in a desperate attempt to salvage his fading legacy. But the board? They are not falling for it this time around. In fact, a staggering 80% of them reportedly shut him down immediately. They've seen the shareholders jumping ship, the Disney Plus subscriber numbers tanking, and Disney getting left in the dust by studios like Paramount, Warner Brothers, and especially Universal. The heat? It's officially on. They're not letting Iger coast anymore. Too much is on the line. And that emergency meeting? It was about to get even more intense, leading to a board ultimatum that would accelerate Iger's exit plans in a way no one expected. So, that emergency meeting? It didn't exactly de-escalate things. In fact, Bob Iger's Hail Mary pass just seemed to backfire spectacularly. The fallout from that call was intense, and now the board is in full-on speed-up mode to get him out of there. Resign, get fired. At this point, they honestly don't seem to care which it is, as long as he's gone. But here's the strategic twist. They're not going to make any rash moves. They're playing it calculated, waiting until June to have a solid replacement CEO locked in before they officially pull the trigger on Iger. It's like they're saying, we want you gone, but we're not going to jump out of the frying pan and into the fire. What makes this whole power struggle even more twisted is that Iger had been publicly talking for months about stepping down in 2026. That was the plan, the narrative he was pushing. Then, Snow White bombs, and suddenly, the script flips. He does a complete 180 and wants to hang on for 2 extra years, trying to stretch his tenure all the way to late 2028. It's giving major deja vu vibes, reminding insiders of what Kathleen Kennedy tried to pull over at Lucasfilm. Remember her clinging on, hoping for one last big win with that Mandalorian and Grogu movie in 2026 before finally stepping down? But for Iger, unlike Kennedy maybe, the support has completely evaporated. Barely anyone on that board wants him around anymore. And it's not just the movies. From TV shows and merchandise to the theme parks themselves, everything under the Disney umbrella is getting hammered. They're facing brutal competition from all sides and dealing with what seems like non-stop internal chaos. And if that wasn't enough pressure, the FCC is now breathing down their necks with an investigation. The company is drowning in problems, and guess who's getting soaked with all the blame? Yep, Bob Iger. He's scrambling, desperately trying to fix things, to rebuild a legacy that's slipping through his fingers faster than he can control. But it's just not clicking. The board is done babysitting this situation. They want fresh leadership, and they want it fast. And here comes another twist in this saga. Apparently, there are already 3 candidates lined up to potentially replace him. But behind all these problems, the board believes there's a central cause, and it's all about how Iger handled something incredibly sensitive: DEI. Because let's be honest, behind closed doors at Disney, the whispers are getting louder, the fingers are pointing directly at one thing: DEI. Specifically, the board has major issues with how Bob Iger decided to roll out and manage diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives across the entire Disney empire. Their take? He pushed it way too hard, too fast, and crucially, made it way too in-your-face across virtually every Disney project. Think about it. From movies to theme parks, it felt like a sudden, almost jarring shift. And according to the board, that approach sparked massive public backlash. They see a direct line between the perceived agenda in projects like Snow White and the Acolyte and the plummeting audience approval. Remember that RachelZegler drama? The board is reportedly furious that Iger had a full 1.5 years to try and clean up that mess before it exploded all over the Snow White press cycle. And yet, he didn't move an inch. It's like he was frozen, or just completely misread the room. Now, Bob Iger is basically clinging to the wreckage, desperately trying to convince everyone he can still steer the ship. Why? Because for a guy like Bob Iger, legacy is everything. This isn't just about a job, it's about how he's going to be remembered. He wants to be seen as Disney's savior, the guy who brought the magic back, not the one who steered it straight into an iceberg. That's why some insiders are now calling him Bob Iger the Smoother. The guy who will say whatever it takes, paint whatever rosy picture he needs to, just to keep shareholders and fans believing in him. One more time. He's been on the interview circuit, spinning narratives, saying things like, "There's no agenda in Snow White, no messages, nothing political," basically implying that critics are clueless, that people don't even know what agenda means. But that act, it's falling flat. The board isn't buying it anymore. And for them, Snow White wasn't just a bad movie, it was the last straw. Because if you really look at the bigger picture, Snow White wasn't some isolated incident. Over the past 12 months, Disney has been taking hit after hit after hit. It's not just about 2024, this has been brewing all year long. From their once dominant streaming service to the big screen blockbusters, it's been pretty much nothing but flops, disappointments, and missed opportunities. Take The Acolyte, for example. Easily shaping up to be one of the biggest Star Wars failures ever made, critically panned and seemingly rejected by a huge chunk of the fan base. And then you have Snow White, which is now sadly holding the crown for the most disastrous live-action remake Disney has ever dropped. When you put those two massive properties together, Star Wars and classic Disney princesses, both essentially trashed in less than a year, that's not just bad luck. That's a full-blown collapse of two powerhouse brands that used to command mad respect and unwavering loyalty from fans everywhere. Now, folks are bouncing. They're turning their backs on Disney in droves and heading straight for greener pastures. Streaming platforms like Paramount Plus, Peacock, and HBO Max are practically scooping up the audience Disney used to dominate. People are fed up, and it's becoming crystal clear they're done waiting for some magical Disney comeback. It's just not happening. And now with Disney desperately struggling to regain control, insiders are saying the company is in full-on panic mode behind the scenes. Executives are scrambling, frantically trying to cover up mounting losses, and some are even actively trying to distance themselves from the Snow White disaster as if it was some rogue project. Word is, internal emails and panicked phone calls are flying back and forth, all about how to reframe the narrative, how to shift the blame away from top leadership. But the problem is, too much damage has already been done. Investors are getting restless, and employees are feeling the immense pressure. Morale is tanking at the studios, especially with so many projects being abruptly paused or outright canceled. Creative teams are confused and demoralized. Marketing departments are pointing fingers, and it's becoming painfully obvious that this isn't just a minor bump in the road. This is a full-on identity crisis for Disney, and Bob Iger's name is plastered all over it. Meanwhile, the fans aren't staying quiet either. Social media is absolutely flooded with memes, angry clips, and brutal call-outs, relentlessly dragging Disney for just how far the quality has plummeted. People are saying things like, "This ain't the Disney I grew up with," and they're demanding the company return to what actually made it great in the first place: authentic stories, timeless characters, and a whole lot less, shall we say, preaching. Even longtime, die-hard Disney supporters are publicly calling it quits. And with so many very public flops in a row, Disney's once untarnished reputation has taken a serious and potentially lasting blow. Analysts are already predicting even more losses through the end of the year if they don't manage to turn things around, and turn them around fast. The pressure is absolutely immense, and all eyes are now laser-focused on who the next CEO pick is going to be. Because one more wrong move and Disney might lose the last bit of trust it has left. And honestly, behind closed doors, it's even messier than we're seeing play out in public. Sources whisper that some Disney insiders are secretly cheering for Bob Iger to finally get the boot, just so they can start picking up the pieces and cleaning up this monumental mess. A few execs are already quietly pushing new strategies, desperately hoping to recapture the old Disney magic, but without all the drama and controversy that's become the new normal. But here's the real kicker, the thing that's keeping everyone in suspense. Until Iger officially steps down, absolutely nothing is moving forward. Everything is stuck in this bizarre limbo, waiting on the decisions of one man who's still desperately clinging to control. On top of that, leaked reports suggest there's a real split within the board itself. It's not a united front. Some want to play it safe, go with a familiar legacy name for the next CEO, someone from within the Disney system. But others are vehemently demanding fresh blood, someone completely outside the Disney bubble who can shake things up from the ground floor, someone who isn't tangled up in past mistakes and old ways of thinking. This power struggle is real, and it's turning into a quiet but intense war behind the scenes. No matter how this plays out, one thing is crystal clear. Disney's future is hanging by a thread. And this next CEO decision, it's not just another corporate reshuffle, it could genuinely make or break the entire Disney empire. And let's not forget the serious heat coming directly from Wall Street. Shareholders are sounding alarms, demanding answers about the staggering lost revenue. the string of failed projects, and the rapidly deteriorating brand value. Some of them are even threatening to pull their investments immediately unless they see a major leadership shift, and see it now. They are completely fed up with watching Disney sink while the top brass plays defense and dodges accountability. Financial experts are already warning that if Disney doesn't course correct fast by the next quarterly report, we could be looking at stock dips the company hasn't seen in decades. And guess who's being squarely blamed for it all? Yep, Bob Iger. His decisions are under a harsh microscope, and every investor call is reportedly turning into a brutal roast session about mismanagement, over-budget productions, and tone-deaf marketing. With the numbers plummeting and the pressure skyrocketing, even Disney's most loyal financial backers are starting to bail. If the board doesn't act decisively, and soon, this might spiral into far more than just a leadership crisis. It could become a full-blown financial disaster that no one at the top is truly ready for. And honestly, the list of problems just keeps growing. More and more people are tuning out, switching off, because they're simply done with what they perceive as Disney's messaging. No matter how many times they publicly claim they're pulling back from DEI, Bob Iger might tell the upper team that change is coming, but let's be real, he's got a track record of flipping on promises. It's like a broken record at this point. But what do you think about all this chaos? Do you agree with the board's push to finally boot Iger? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what everyone's got to say about this wild situation. And hey, if you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next update. Because trust me, this Disney drama is far from over, and I'll be breaking it all down piece by shocking piece. See you in the next one.